The Galactic Assessment. High Admiral Kizat stood before the massive holographic display, his four eyes narrowing as he studied the blue-green planet spinning slowly in the projection. Around him, the members of the Vrachnid Military Council shifted impatiently in their hover seats, their crystalline exoskeletons reflecting the dim light of the command chamber. "This," Kizat announced, tapping the image with one of his sharp claws, "is Earth, home to a species that calls themselves humans. They have achieved basic spaceflight and established a few primitive colonies on their moon and neighboring planet." The council members chittered in amusement. They had seen countless civilizations like this before, young, barely space-capable races that would quickly bow before the might of the Vrachnid Dominion. "Our initial assessment suggests they will be an easy conquest," Kizat continued, bringing up a series of data streams. "Their weapons are primitive. Most of their military technology still relies on chemical propulsion and crude nuclear devices. They haven't even developed basic gravity manipulation." General Virex, the oldest member of the council, leaned forward. "What about their defenses?" Kizat flicked through several images showing Earth's orbital satellites and space stations. "Fragile constructions. Their most advanced military satellites could be disabled by a single shot from our smallest scout ships." The room filled with the clicking sounds of agreement. This would be the 18th civilization to join the Dominion. A routine conquest, nothing more. But in the corner of the chamber, Chief Strategist Mira remained silent, her sensory antennae twitching nervously. Something about the data bothered her. She had spent the last 3 cycles studying Earth's military history, and the patterns she found were disturbing. "High Admiral," Mira spoke up, her voice cutting through the chittering, "I believe we should examine their combat records more closely." Kizat turned all 4 eyes toward her. "You have concerns, strategist." Mira stepped forward, her claws dancing over the control panel. The hologram shifted, showing various scenes from Earth's wars. "These humans, they don't fight like any species we've encountered. Look at this engagement they call World War II. When faced with superior weapons, they didn't surrender. Instead, they adapted. They used primitive tools in unexpected ways. They turned their civilian industries into war machines within days." The council members watched as images flashed by. Soldiers fighting in frozen wastelands, underwater vessels striking from the depths, tiny aircraft taking down massive warships. "And here," Mira continued, "a more recent conflict. When their enemies used advanced drone technology, the humans responded by hacking the control systems. When faced with armored vehicles, they transformed common farming equipment into weapons." Kizat waved his upper limb dismissively. "Creative, perhaps, but irrelevant against our technology. We are not some primitive Earth military force." Mira's antennae drooped in frustration. "High Admiral, with respect, that's not the point. In every conflict we studied, humans have shown an almost irrational ability to adapt and survive. They don't follow standard combat protocols. They improvise. They break rules. And most concerningly," she paused, bringing up one final image, "they seem to fight better when they're at a disadvantage." The chamber fell silent. On the hologram, a small group of human soldiers could be seen holding off a much larger force using nothing but the ruins of their own destroyed vehicles as cover. Kizat studied the image for a long moment. Finally, he turned to Mira. "Your concerns are noted, strategist. But the invasion will proceed as planned. After all." He gestured at the vast Vrachnid fleet assembled outside the chamber's viewport. "What could these humans possibly do against the most powerful armada in the galaxy?" Mira looked at the fleet, then back at the images of human warfare. Under her breath, she whispered, "I believe we're about to find out." First contact goes poorly. Ambassador Tulara of the Vrachnid Dominions stood proudly on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel, her crystalline exoskeleton polished to perfection. After 3 Earth months of studying human languages and customs, she was confident in her ability to handle first contact. The massive view screen before her showed Earth, growing larger as their ship approached. "Begin transmission," she ordered, her antennae quivering with anticipation. The message was perfect, crafted over many cycles by the finest minds in the Dominion. It outlined their demands for Earth's surrender in flawless English, explaining how resistance would be futile against their superior technology. The response came almost immediately. Tulara's translation device processed it, and a video appeared on the main screen. It showed a human male, dancing and singing. "Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down." Tulara blinked all four eyes in confusion. "There must be an error. Send the message again." The second response was even more puzzling. A series of images showing a small Earth creature called a cat, with misspelled text reading, "I can HAZ surrender," and much war. Very scary. Whoa. "What is happening?" Tulara demanded, her crystalline fingers tapping nervously on her command console. "Are they mocking us?" Her communications officer frantically analyzed the incoming signals. "Ambassador, we're receiving thousands of similar messages. They're calling them memes." On the secondary screens, more responses flooded in. Someone had edited the Vracnid flagship into something called a drift video, with loud Earth music playing in the background. Another message showed their threatening broadcast edited to make the Vracnid voices sound like something called chipmunks. High Admiral Kazat's hologram appeared, his expression furious. "Ambassador, explain this nonsense." I don't understand," Tulara admitted. "Our cultural databases didn't prepare us for this kind of response. They're not taking our threats seriously at all." Meanwhile, in a secure bunker deep beneath the Pentagon, General Sarah Chen watched the alien reactions through hacked feeds, a smile playing on her lips. Around her, banks of computers processed data at incredible speeds while young officers, chosen specifically for their expertise in digital warfare and meme culture, worked their magic. "Keep them confused," she ordered. "The longer they try to figure out our primitive communication methods, the more time our real countermeasures have to deploy." On screens around her, the true defense of Earth was already in motion. Stealth satellites moved silently into position. Quantum computers worked to crack Vracnid transmission codes. And in labs across the planet, scientists fine-tuned weapons specifically designed to target crystalline life forms. Back on the Vracnid diplomatic vessel, Tulara was reaching her breaking point. The latest human response was a carefully edited video that made it appear as if the entire Vracnid fleet was dancing to something called Gangnam Style. "Enough," she shouted. "These humans are clearly too primitive to understand the gravity of their situation. We should begin the invasion immediately." In her corner of the bridge, Chief Strategist Mira watched silently. She noticed something that others had missed: subtle patterns in the humans' seemingly random responses. They were being distracted, led into predictable reactions. But why? As if answering her thoughts, the ship's sensors suddenly blared a warning. Multiple unknown energy signatures were appearing around the fleet, previously hidden by Earth's primitive technology. Mira's antennae drooped. "They've been playing us for fools," she whispered. "The real fight is about to begin." The first explosions lit up space just as another meme arrived. This one showing a smiling human with the text, "Welcome to Earth. You're in for a wild ride." Conventional warfare. Think again. High Admiral Kazat had expected a simple victory. Instead, he watched in horror as another Vracnid battleship exploded, torn apart by what appeared to be a civilian mining vessel packed with antimatter. How did they hide antimatter in a mining ship? He roared, his crystalline form vibrating with rage. "Where are they even getting these materials?" "High Admiral," a tactical officer called out, "we're detecting more civilian vessels approaching." They're playing music." Through the command ship speakers came the thundering bass of AC/DC's Thunderstruck as the human ships charged forward. The Vracnid battle computers couldn't predict their movement patterns. They zigzagged randomly, some spinning, others diving in impossible curves that ignored proper space combat formations. Chief Strategist Mira studied the tactical display with growing concern. "They're not just using their military forces," she reported. "They've weaponized everything they have. Look, on the screen, Earth's orbit was becoming a death trap. Old satellites suddenly came to life, revealing hidden weapons. Space debris transformed into guided missiles. Even a human space telescope, supposedly a scientific instrument, split open to reveal a massive electromagnetic pulse cannon. 15% of our fleet is already lost," Mira continued. "Our ships keep trying to form proper battle lines. But the humans," she gestured at the chaos around them. A massive cargo container, supposedly full of frozen food, drifted past their flagship. When Vracnid sensors scanned it, the container burst open, releasing thousands of tiny robots that began attaching themselves to nearby ships, disrupting their shield frequencies. "Their battle strategy makes no sense." Kazat smashed his clawed fist against his command chair. "How can we fight an enemy that doesn't follow any rules of warfare?" In Earth's primary defense command center, General Chen watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. Around her, operators coordinated the seemingly chaotic defense with precise timing. "Launch the next wave," she ordered. "Show them what happens when you corner humanity." The Vracnid fleet suddenly detected hundreds of new targets emerging from Earth's atmosphere. Their sensors identified them as school buses. "Impossible," Kizat shouted as the yellow vehicles accelerated toward his ships. "Their engines shouldn't be capable of." The buses exploded before impact, each releasing clouds of specialized nanobots designed to eat through crystalline structures. Vracnid crews watched in horror as their mighty warships began dissolving around them. "Fall back," Kazat ordered. "Regroup at the outer system," and a new alarm blared. The humans had somehow turned the entire asteroid belt into a minefield. Each rock they scanned was rigged with either explosives or more of those terrible nanobots. Mira stepped forward, her voice quiet but firm. "High Admiral, I believe we need to reconsider our approach. These humans, they're not fighting a war. They're playing a game where they make up the rules as they go." As if to prove her point, several Vracnid ships reported their computer systems were suddenly playing something called Baby Shark on endless loop, driving their crews to near madness. Kizat stared at the tactical display, watching as his mighty fleet was being torn apart by an endless series of impossible tricks and traps. His species had conquered 17 civilizations, but none had fought like this. None had turned their entire civilization, down to their children's toys and entertainment, into weapons of war. "Send the order," he finally said, his voice heavy with disbelief. "All ships, full retreat. We need to develop a new strategy for dealing with whatever this is." As the Vracnid fleet began its withdrawal, a final message appeared on their screens. "Thanks for playing. Come back when you're ready for round 2. The guerrilla phase." The Vracnid intelligence officer stared at his screen in frustration. For the past week, he had been trying to decode human communications, but nothing made sense. His latest challenge was a message that had spread across human networks. "When the Amokus is sus, the narwhal bacons at midnight. Big Chungus leads to Monk Flip. This is the way. It has to be a military code," he muttered, his crystalline fingers tapping nervously on his desk. "But our best decryption algorithms can't crack it." Across Earth, resistance fighters were indeed communicating through memes and social media posts. In a hidden bunker, Sarah Chen, now leading Earth's guerrilla operations, smiled as she watched the aliens' confusion grow. "They're looking for encrypted military channels," she explained to her team. "They'll never understand that we're hiding our messages in plain sight, using our own culture as the encryption key." A young lieutenant raised his hand. "General, the Australian division just posted a picture of a dancing cockroach with rainbow effects. Should we launch the operation?" Chen nodded. "Tell all units, deploy the murder hornets." Across the Pacific, thousands of tiny drones, designed to look exactly like Earth insects, activated and swarmed toward the nearest Vrachnid ground forces. The aliens, still struggling to understand Earth's ecosystem, had no way to tell which flying creatures were real and which were packed with microscopic explosives. Meanwhile, in orbit, Chief Strategist Mira was growing increasingly concerned. She watched as another Vrachnid patrol fell into a human trap, this time lured by what appeared to be an abandoned cargo ship broadcasting nothing but something called elevator music. Their tactics make no sense, she reported to High Admiral Kazet. They're using their own ridiculousness as a weapon. When our forces ignore something because it seems too stupid to be a threat, it turns out to be deadly. When we take something seriously, it turns out to be a distraction. Kazet's response was interrupted by an alert. Someone had hacked their fleet's communication systems to play something called Nyancat on all frequencies. Back on Earth, resistance cells coordinated their attacks through what appeared to be normal social media activity. A post about returning to Monk signaled an attack on Vrachnid supply lines. Pictures of cats knocking objects off tables coordinated the destruction of alien communication towers. A viral dance challenge somehow managed to direct a simultaneous strike against 20 different alien outposts. The Vrachnid intelligence officer was close to a breakdown. "Look at this," he shouted to his superior. "They're just posting pictures of something called Doge with broken English captions. How is this organizing a planetary resistance?" His superior officers studied the images. "Perhaps we're overthinking this. They're clearly a primitive species. These must be random communications." At that exact moment, 3 Vrachnid bases went dark, taken out by attacks that exactly matched the patterns shown in the random Doge memes. In her command center, General Chen received the confirmation and turned to her meme warfare division, a team of teenagers and young adults chosen specifically for their mastery of internet culture. "What's next on the playlist?" she asked. A young specialist grinned. "We just deep-faked their supreme commander into a video of something called Carameldenson. Their troops are so confused about whether it's real or not that they're starting to question all their communications." Chen nodded approvingly. "Perfect. Remember, everyone, in this war, confusion is our ally. The more they try to understand us, the less they actually see what we're doing." As if to prove her point, somewhere in orbit, a Vrachnid warship fell for a trap because its captain couldn't believe humans would actually name a deadly stealth vessel HMS Rickroll. The psychology of fear. Squad leader Vikur led his Vrachnid soldiers through the abandoned human city of Chicago, their crystalline forms gleaming in the dim light. Their advanced combat suits could handle any weapon the humans might use. At least, that's what they thought. Building ahead clear, no human life signs, one soldier reported, scanning a tall structure labeled Haunted House, Special Military Edition. Vikur moved his squad forward. The door creaked open on its own, which seemed inefficient. Why wouldn't humans maintain their door systems properly? The first floor was dark. Suddenly, holographic figures appeared, human soldiers who looked wounded and walked strangely. Vikur's troops raised their weapons, but the shots passed through the holograms. "Primitive scare tactics," Vikur announced confidently. "Press forward." They reached the second floor. The walls were covered in red liquid that their scanners identified as paint, not blood. Strange dolls hung from the ceiling, their heads turning to follow the soldiers. One of Vikur's troops was already shaking. "Sir," the soldier whispered, "why would they waste resources on fake threats? What's the tactical purpose?" Before Vikur could answer, all their helmet radios started playing something called Baby Shark at maximum volume. They couldn't turn it off. The song repeated endlessly, its simple rhythm somehow burrowing into their minds. In a command center nearby, Resistance leader Maria Torres watched through hidden cameras. "Psychological warfare team, proceed to Phase 2, she ordered. The temperature in the building dropped suddenly. Fog machines activated, and then the humans revealed their masterstroke. Projections of creatures from Earth's horror movies began appearing. A girl crawling out of a well, A clown lurking in the shadows. A tall, faceless figure in a suit. They're not real. Viker shouted as his troops began to panic. Our sensors show nothing is there. But the Vrachnid soldiers, raised in a society of pure logic and order, had never developed defenses against psychological warfare. They had no context for horror, no understanding of why humans would create entertainment designed to scare themselves. In orbit, Chief Strategist Mira received disturbing reports from ground forces across Earth. In New York, soldiers refused to enter the subway systems after encountering something humans called urban legends. In Tokyo, entire squads were rendered useless by elaborate haunted house setups. In London, troops were terrified of the fog after humans spread stories about Jack the Ripper. "They're attacking our minds," Mira reported to High Admiral Kazat. "Our soldiers are experiencing something called trauma. They're seeing threats everywhere, jumping at shadows. Some refuse to go into dark spaces. Others can't stop humming that shark song." Back in Chicago, Viker's squad finally reached the top floor. They found a single screen playing human horror movie trailers on loop. Next to it was a note. "Welcome to Earth. We've been practicing scaring ourselves for fun for centuries. Imagine what we can do when we're trying." Viker's troops were trembling now. Their combat suits could stop bullets but couldn't protect them from the psychological weapons humans had perfected over generations of scary stories and horror films. In her command center, Torres received word that another alien squad had retreated. "Humans have always been afraid of the dark," she mused. "But we turned that fear into an art form. Now we're teaching the aliens why." As if to prove her point, somewhere in the city, another squad of Vrachnid soldiers fled in terror from what turned out to be a Halloween store mannequin holding a sign that read, "Do." The microbial surprise. Dr. Lisa Chen, no relation to General Chen, stared into her microscope with growing excitement. Around her, the secret underground laboratory buzzed with activity as other scientists studied samples from captured Vrachnid soldiers. "This is incredible," she announced to her team. "Their bodies are completely sterile. No bacteria, no fungi, nothing. They've engineered themselves to be pure." Her colleague, Dr. Rodriguez, looked up from his own microscope. "Pure, yes. But that's their weakness. They have no resistance to Earth's natural environment. No immune system like ours." Meanwhile, in a Vrachnid medical ship orbiting Earth, Chief Medical Officer Nivol was facing a crisis. More and more soldiers were falling ill, not from human weapons, but from simply being on Earth. "I don't understand," Nivol complained to his staff. "Their planet is infected with billions of microscopic organisms. How do humans survive?" A junior medical officer brought up a holographic display of human biology. "Sir, it's worse than that. The humans, they're working with these organisms. They have billions of bacteria living inside them, helping them digest food, protecting their skin, even affecting their minds." Ninvol's crystalline form shuddered at the thought. The Vrachnid civilization had spent thousands of years eliminating all microorganisms from their bodies. The idea of willingly hosting such creatures seemed insane. Back on Earth, Dr. Chen made another discovery. She rushed to the communication room to contact military command. "General," she reported excitedly, "the Vrachnids can't handle our probiotics. Their sterile biology means even our helpful bacteria are overwhelming their systems. And there's more. Their crystalline structure is actually being affected by simple soil bacteria." General Sarah Chen, who was getting tired of explaining she wasn't related to Dr. Chen, smiled. "So what you're saying is, Earth itself is fighting back." "Exactly. Every time they touch our soil, drink our water, or even breathe our air, they're exposing themselves to microorganisms they've never encountered. Their environmental suits can't filter everything." The general turned to her tactical team. "New strategy. Authorize Operation Yogurt Storm." Across the battlefields, human forces began deploying the new weapon, clouds of probiotic mist. The Vracnid soldiers found their crystalline armor slowly being eaten away by friendly bacteria that humans consumed daily in their foods. In his flagship, High Admiral Kizat received increasingly desperate reports. His troops couldn't function without their heavy environmental suits, which made them slow and clumsy. Some areas of Earth were becoming completely off-limits due to high concentrations of microbial life. How do the humans do it? He demanded of Chief Strategist Mira. How do they survive in this soup of microscopic life? Mira's answer was interrupted by a new report. Several Vracnid bases have been compromised after exposure to something humans called kombucha. Dr. Chen's team continued their work, developing new ways to use Earth's natural microbiome as a defense system. They released modified soil bacteria that specifically targeted Vracnid technology. They developed sprays containing human-friendly probiotics that could disable alien equipment without harming Earth life. "It's beautiful, really," Dr. Rodriguez commented as they watched videos of Vracnid soldiers retreating from what was essentially a helpful gut bacteria. "We spent so long studying our relationship with Earth's microorganisms, and now that knowledge is saving us." Dr. Chen nodded, watching as another batch of probiotic cultures grew in their lab. The Vracnids tried to become too pure, too perfect. They never understood that sometimes the best defense is to make friends with the smallest forms of life. In orbit, Nival added another entry to his medical log. Day 47 of Earth invasion. Even their yogurt is trying to kill us. What kind of planet is this? Cultural contamination. Junior Commander Ratil knew he was breaking at least 15 Vracnid military regulations. In his private quarters aboard the invasion fleet's support ship, he secretly watched another episode of a human entertainment series called Cat Videos. "These serve no military purpose," he whispered to himself, even as he clicked on another video titled "Cats Knocking Things Off Tables." Ultimate compilation. He wasn't alone. Across the Vracnid fleet, more and more young soldiers were becoming fascinated with human culture. In hidden corners of their ships, they shared downloaded Earth music, watched human movies, and even tried to recreate human foods in their synthesizers. On the bridge of her command ship, Chief Strategist Mira reviewed the latest disciplinary reports with growing concern. "High Admiral," she reported to Kizat, "we have a serious problem. 3 squads were caught attempting to perform something called a tick-tock dance during their duty shifts. 5 more were reported speaking in human meme language, and worst of all," she paused, her crystalline form trembling slightly, "some are questioning our hierarchical structure after watching human movies about rebellion." Kizat's 4 eyes widened in alarm. "How is this happening? Our soldiers are the finest in the galaxy, trained from birth to be perfect warriors." "That might be the problem, sir," Mira suggested. "The humans, they embrace imperfection. They celebrate it. And our younger troops find this idea fascinating." In a secret Earth monitoring station, Lieutenant Jake Martinez watched this cultural invasion unfold through intercepted Vracnid communications. He could hardly believe what he was seeing. "General Chen," he reported, "you need to see this. The aliens are, well, they're becoming fans of our stuff." The video feeds showed Vracnid soldiers secretly trying to dance to K-pop music. Others were attempting to keep small Earth animals as pets, fascinated by the concept of emotional bonds with other species. Some had even started using human slang in their military reports. "Sir," a young Vracnid officer reported to his superior, "the human defenses are looking kinda sus." General Chen's team had never expected this kind of victory. They had planned for military battles, not cultural conversion. Yet here were their enemies, becoming obsessed with human entertainment, food, and way of life. Back on the Vracnid command ship, Kizat faced another crisis. Someone had introduced something called pizza to the fleet's food synthesizers. Now his soldiers were refusing to eat their standard nutrient crystals. "This is unacceptable," he roared. "We are warriors of the Dominion. We do not need these human distractions." But even as he spoke, His personal assistant was hiding a saved collection of human dog videos in his datapad. Mira watched all this with a mixture of concern and fascination. She had secretly started listening to human music herself, finding their concept of rock and roll strangely appealing. Perhaps, she suggested carefully to Kazat, we should study this phenomenon. Understanding human culture might help us fight them better. Kazat agreed, not noticing that Mira's foot was tapping to the rhythm of a human song stuck in her head. In her command center, General Chen received another report about Vrachnid soldiers being caught watching Earth sports broadcasts. Well, she mused, we always said our culture was our greatest weapon. We just didn't expect it to work quite like this. Somewhere in the fleet, a group of young Vrachnid officers held their first secret movie night, completely unaware that their love of human entertainment was doing more damage to the invasion than any conventional weapon could. The winning move. Emily Zhang, Earth's chief of economic warfare, stood before the United Earth Council with an unusual proposal. On the screen behind her, she displayed images of Vrachnid trading posts across the galaxy. We've been fighting with weapons, she said, but we're missing our greatest opportunity. The Vrachnid Empire isn't just a military force, it's a business. In the audience, General Chen leaned forward with interest. After months of unconventional warfare, she was ready to try anything. Our spies report that Vrachnid society runs on strict economic rules, Emily continued. Everything has a profit margin. Even this war was approved because they calculated the resources they'd gain from Earth would be worth the cost. She clicked to the next slide, showing a collection of Earth products. Movies, music, games, food, and fashion. So let's change the math. Let's make this war too expensive to continue. On a neutral trading station at the edge of Vrachnid space, the plan began. Human merchants arrived with shipping containers full of Earth merchandise. T-shirts with popular memes, box sets of human TV shows, packages of Earth snack foods, and music players preloaded with pop songs. The station's alien merchants were confused at first, but then the Vrachnid civilians living on the station discovered these strange Earth products, and they couldn't get enough. Back on the Vrachnid command ship, High Admiral Kazat received disturbing reports from the Empire's Economic Council. What do you mean? Our youth are spending their credits on human entertainment, he demanded. And what is this Hello Kitty that's draining our economy? Chief Strategist Mira, hiding her own collection of Earth plush toys, explained the situation. Sir, human products are spreading through our trading networks faster than we can stop them. Our civilians are obsessed with their brands. They're even learning Earth languages to understand human viral videos. The economic impact was devastating. Vrachnid workers were becoming less productive because they were binge-watching human TV series. Young Vrachnids were spending their savings on Earth fashion and electronics. Some were even requesting Earth-style food in their cafeterias. Emily's team monitored the chaos with satisfaction. They kept launching new products, each carefully designed to appeal to Vrachnid tastes, while slowly changing their society. It's brilliant, General Chen admitted, watching videos of Vrachnid teenagers wearing Earth-band t-shirts. We're not just draining their economy. We're making them fall in love with our way of life. The final blow came when human marketing teams introduced the concept of limited edition collectibles to Vrachnid society. The aliens, used to practical and efficient consumption, were completely unprepared for the idea of artificial scarcity and collector's items. High Admiral, Mira reported, her voice heavy with concern. Our economic ministry reports that 40% of our war budget is now being spent by our citizens on something called Pokemon cards. Kazat stared at the reports in disbelief. The mighty Vrachnid Empire, conquerors of 17 civilizations, was being defeated not by weapons, but by human marketing and entertainment. In her office, Emily received another report of Vrachnid economic disruption. You know what's funny? She told her team. We're not even trying to destroy their economy. We're just sharing our culture, and they're choosing to embrace it. She looked at the latest sales figures from Vrachnid space. Earth music topping their charts, Earth foods becoming popular in their restaurants, Earth fashion spreading through their cities. Sometimes, she mused, the best way to win a war is to make your enemy realize they'd rather be your customer. Decisive victory. The video that changed everything was simple. A young Vrachnid soldier dancing to Earth music in their crystalline armor, with the caption, "When your invasion gets cancelled but the beat drops." It spread across both human and Vrachnid networks like wildfire. High Admiral Kazat watched the video for the 100th time, his 4 eyes twitching in frustration. How many views does it have now? 2 billion on their TikTok platform, Chief Strategist Mira reported, trying to hide her own amusement. And it spawned something called a dance challenge. Vrachnid youth across the empire are copying it. The soldier in the video had become an overnight sensation. Humans loved the idea of an alien trying to dance to their music. Vrachnid youth saw it as a symbol of breaking free from their rigid society. In her office on Earth, General Chen received an unexpected message. The Vrachnid corporate board, the true power behind their empire, wanted to talk. Our market research shows that continuing this war would be unprofitable, the Vrachnid CEO explained through the video link. His crystalline form sparkled with expensive Earth-style decorations. Perhaps we could discuss alternative arrangements. Chen smiled. We might have some ideas. 1 month later, the first official human Vrachnid Cultural Exchange Center opened in New York. Young Vrachnids lined up for blocks to try something called ice cream, while humans eagerly bought glowing crystalline fashion accessories. This isn't exactly how I expected to win a war, Emily Zhang admitted, watching a group of Vrachnid tourists take selfies in Times Square. But it might be better than any military victory. On the former invasion flagship, now converted into a luxury cruise ship for interspecies tourism, Kazat met with Earth's leaders. The peace treaty they signed was unlike any in galactic history. Instead of demanding resources or territory, Earth asked for trade rights, cultural exchange programs, and something called streaming service partnerships. I don't understand, Kazat confessed to Mira after the signing. How did they defeat us without destroying us? Mira, now wearing a I Earth t-shirt under her official uniforms, smiled. They didn't defeat us, sir. They upgraded us. Look around. The changes were everywhere. Vrachnid ships now played human music in their corridors. Their strict military formations had been modified to allow for what humans called personal expression. Even their traditional crystal-based food was being fusion mixed with Earth cuisine. In a small Earth cafe, the Vrachnid soldier whose dance video started it all met with General Chen. He had become a symbol of peace between their species. I just wanted to try dancing, he explained, sipping his first chocolate milkshake. I never expected to end a war. Chen watched as humans and Vrachnids shared tables in the cafe, exchanging stories and teaching each other their customs. Sometimes, she said, the best victories don't come from fighting. They come from sharing. 5 years later, the Vrachnid Empire had transformed. Their ships still patrolled space, but now they were famous for their entertainment cruises. Their fearsome military academies offered classes in Earth art and music. Their once rigid society had learned to embrace a little chaos, a little creativity, a little humanity. When asked about the failed invasion, the Vrachnid leadership had developed a standard response. We came to conquer Earth, but Earth conquered our hearts instead. And honestly, we're better for it. In the end, humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology, their tactics, or even their microbes. It was their ability to make enemies into friends, to share their joy, their creativity, and their culture with the galaxy. And somewhere on a Vrachnid ship, that first viral dance video was still playing. A reminder that sometimes the best way to win a war is to make it impossible for your enemy to want to fight you.